What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the XRP price chart and how the price chart has the appearance that it is getting for the very, very end before the price could start moving to the upside. As anybody who watches the channel should know, we spent a year and a half in Wyckoff accumulation. Recently, we're able to leave the range, and here with that liquidation that happened throughout the market, earlier this week, we saw prices finally come back to backtest the top end of that accumulation range. Price has still since been able to hold, and we do see lots of behaviors here mimicking past behavior of once a range is actually completed, once that type of backtest can be done. So in this video, we're going to zoom in closer on this, on the entire accumulation and the backtest, and how moments like these can come after that. Now, I do get it. This looks like a bunch of hopium to see things like that coming afterwards. So we're going to go at this with a methodical approach. And while we will be looking a lot at the XRP price chart in this actual video to show the end of accumulation, we're also going to be diving into other macro elements and elements going on with Bitcoin that could support this idea coming soon. I do know there are a lot of narratives out there for the XRP price chart. When you spend this long getting stuck in a range, a lot of videos, a lot of stories, a lot of conspiracies can come up. I do avoid all of those, and I really just stick with what's going on in markets. And so that's the approach that I'm going to take. But I do believe we have reached a phase where we can start seriously considering, at least on the YouTube channel for me, that we could see prices move up pretty aggressively pretty soon. If you've paid attention, there hasn't been an XRP dedicated video in almost 2 months, because there's been one thing that's just kind of been missing in here, and that has really just been a daily backtest of the top of the accumulation range. We've been stuck in this range. People have been asking me in markets in the morning all the time, what do you think of XRP? What do you think of XRP? And my answer has constantly been, we're in a range. And so I've just refused to make any type of like strong content on it while we've just been in a range, and ranges by design are chaotic. And finally, we did get this backtest, this throwback in here, which now to me tells me not only have we completed Wyckoff accumulation, now we have actually backtested the top of the range. But what's fun from that standpoint is that we also have price behavior in XRP that has done something like that before. But the cold hard reality of it is, well, just because we see something like this emerging on the chart, is that enough? Does there need to be more than that? Yes, we can create patterns that look very similar. Ooh, congratulations, we magically backtested a line. But do we have other elements happening in the cryptocurrency market and in macro markets that would support the idea that something like this could happen soon? I believe we do. So before we dive too deep into the XRP price chart, I'd like to talk about elements that were important in the markets in order for things like this to even happen. While it may not be everybody's favorite narrative, and it's often a hard pill to swallow, the reality is XRP's price has required upward trajectory from Bitcoin prior to its price going in massive upward trajectory. Here's 2020 and 2021. Bitcoin goes up, later XRP up. Here's 2017. Bitcoin up, later XRP up. Here's even earlier in 2015, 16, and 17. Bitcoin up, later XRP up. This is probably the most simplified version of explaining this. As you guys know, I many times go into in-depth and overlay a bunch of assets, but this just simplifies it as much as you can. There has never been a bull run for XRP that did not come with the companionship of Bitcoin strength in the market. Every move has had that element and aspect to it. And every time, people whine, complain, and cry as that occurs. And even 2020 and 2021 was no different. And even in 2021, the price stayed down here under 60 cents. And then in the last 10 days, went to $2. Every major impulse, whether it's 2013, whether it's 2017, twice, or 2020 and 2021, they all come with the accompaniment of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin led the way. So, do we have a check mark there to say, Bitcoin's been moving up? I'd say the answer is clearly yes. Now, I would think if I was a cynic, I would be saying to myself, well, yeah, Bitcoin's price going up because it's anticipating a Bitcoin ETF. If so, Then why has the altcoin market been outperforming Bitcoin since October? The reality is Bitcoin follows the stock market. The most hated narrative there is: permissionless, immutable, decentralized, sound money. Or is it just a tech stock as we compare the price of Bitcoin to the NASDAQ 100 technology sector? Has price really been rising due to the anticipation of a Bitcoin ETF? Or has price been rising because tech has been going up? The top of Bitcoin comes in when tech's top comes in. The bottom of Bitcoin, even the FTX collapse, all comes in at the bottom of big tech, and our price moves are happening in unison. Is big tech waiting for the Bitcoin ETF? Is Microsoft or Roblox or DoorDash all waiting for the Bitcoin ETF? I doubt it. I doubt it. So here we are. We're talking about the XRP price chart. We take another step out and we look towards Bitcoin. And then we have to take another step out and then we have to look towards the United States stock market. And we say, well, where's the stock market at? And as you all know, the Dow Jones Industrial Average recently broke into an all-time high about 3 weeks ago. We even saw the NASDAQ briefly break into a new all-time high, while the NDXT has come up quite short, but is looking awfully similar to what the peak of Bitcoin looked like back in 2021, along with the NASDAQ itself, which behaved just like this for Bitcoin in 2021, where it briefly set a new high, hits the 4.236 extension, like so, and then the lights were out. If this is the case for the NASDAQ, if this is also the case for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which has only gotten 3.8% away from its 4.236 extension while roaring up 480% since the great financial crisis, does that mean we're creating what could be a peak here in the United States stock market for the Dow, the NASDAQ, the NDXT? And if so, what does that mean for Bitcoin? And what does that mean for the XRP price chart? Well, if we assume maybe that the NASDAQ is only going to do something like this and that the Dow Jones Industrial Average would do something of the same, well, sorry to all the Bitcoiners out there. The reality is Bitcoin would probably do something very similar to that as well. If we were to expect something like this to show up over here for the NDXT and for the NASDAQ and here for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, well, then wouldn't we just be looking for something similar like that over here on Bitcoin? But BCB, no. Permissionless, immutable, decentralized, sound money, Fourier cycles, block reward halvings, ETFs. I get it. I get it. I've heard you many times. But the reality is, price is acting just as it should with the stock market and behaving exactly like you'd expect for the first dip in something like that. What's very interesting is how the price is so nearly eerily similar to what happened when it roared up like that. And that we're very, very close in similar price action to what we actually have already done. And it has confluence with what we're talking about with the stock market, whether it's the NASDAQ, Dow, or NDXT. You're really kind of looking for things to just kind of settle down one more, and then it's over. Something like that would look just like that over here on Bitcoin. What would also have confluence about something like that, where it's to get it back to, is it right back up there into those retracement levels, very close to that 702 Fibonacci retracement, which of course has been my theory all along. No new all-time highs for Bitcoin. So what would all of this mean? Well, first of all, it means that retail investors are getting distributed on with the Bitcoin ETF narrative. That's not unusual. We always said we get back to the retracement levels and retail would lose all fear and start buying Bitcoin like crazy back at the retracement levels. Like magic, they're getting their most hopium narrative they can possibly hope for back into the retracement levels, which is the Bitcoin ETF. But the high likelihood of them just getting distributed on and sold on is very likely, as when we saw the price action after doing literally this, consolidating, going for one more push up in here, and then pulls back. They have such a lack of understanding of how something like that could happen here from a technical level in retrace levels. They all searched for a narrative to blame like a Matrix report guy who's got like 20,000 followers and nobody's ever even heard of this report before to say, he said maybe a Bitcoin ETF isn't going to get approved. Okay, so this one guy who said this made the price drop by 10%. Get out of here. I've probably said it over a dozen times. There's a chance it doesn't get approved. What's the difference? I mean, right? But anytime price action happens and it doesn't go along with the main narrative, people will always search for a side narrative to say, here's actually what ended up happening. Right now, retail is completely on one side. Bitcoin ETF is the best thing that's ever happened to Bitcoin. And it's all happening in the retracement levels. We're above the 50% retracement level where this is all happening at. But if this is the actual case of what's really going on here with Bitcoin, NDXT, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, what would it actually mean? It would mean that Bitcoin's really running out of steam. But it also means we'd be entering into euphoria because retail always buys tops. Whether it's in the stock market, no matter where we look, or big tech, retail goes euphoric in here. And we know that because we watched them do it right here for Bitcoin back in 2021. So it's not perceived as a moment of fear or a moment of worry. It's perceived as the moment of maximum risk taking. It's as far as the market can push. It can't get any stronger than that at that particular moment. And that while over here, we'd be sitting here screaming, oh boy, here we go. That's not what the rest of the market would be doing. The rest of the market would be saying, oh boy, here we go. So what does all of this mean, right? It means one, Bitcoin's price action has been going to the upside. Two, Bitcoin could be reaching a potential top in here. Three, we'd be entering a phase of maximum euphoria in Bitcoin and maximum euphoria in broader markets such as the Dow Jones and NASDAQ and NDXT. Of maximum euphoria, we're going to the moon. Nothing can stop this train. And you may have forgotten by now that this is an XRP video. But to say, is that where something like this could happen at? Well, that's what's happened in each of the past moves. 2021, it shows up in a straight lineup all the way near the top. It had already pulled back in here. Still, XRP is not going. It's still sitting at 48 cents right here. It's just this move right here. It doesn't even take off until you're like right in here. And then boom, everything happens at the end as the exhaustion is finishing for Bitcoin. You go back to 2017, it all happens after Bitcoin's already in the distribution phase and the ending phase in here. This is where it all shows up. So if we are in distribution and market euphoria, market excitement, we're going to the moon, but it's actually nothing more than distribution happening at retracement levels, then it's a perfect time as any for that to show up because this right here all happens right here. This whole takeoff that we end up seeing is right here in the distribution. Now, let's play devil's advocate and say, I'm completely wrong. Bitcoin is going to get through here and it's going to go to a new all-time high. Okay, what happens in that situation? Well, we know that Bitcoin's market has mirrored that of 2014 through 2016. So what happened after this when Bitcoin goes and sets a new all-time high? Right over here, XRP goes to moon. So whether it's distribution happening right here, or if all the Bitcoiners and all their narratives are right and it goes to a new all-time high, have you reached market conditions that could support that happening? Euphoria in the stock market, a top coming in for Bitcoin, or what I deem to be incredibly unlikely, a new all-time high for Bitcoin. These are the elements and the times where XRP's price can surge. If all this is distribution and this is a local top, that's where it can happen. If it's breaking into an all-time high, that's where it can happen. It doesn't matter what happens from the ETF. Both elements are times where it could happen. Another thing that goes against the narratives that are all built about XRP is the flip of the switch and it's all going to happen due to something magical and there's secrets and there's all kinds of things happening behind closed doors that are instantly going to turn the price up to thousands of dollars for XRP and whatnot. But another thing that every move with XRP has included is the altcoin market. And so we look at all these things over here on Bitcoin. And so then we can go look at the technicals of the actual altcoin market over here. And we could see these things very clearly that the altcoin market is turning up, pulled way out of the desert crossing phase, right? Way out of the desert crossing phase. This is when it gets way up. Right, we can overlay XRP on here to see when have these big runs occurred. Oh, look, it shows up right here in peak euphoria of the altcoin market. It shows up here in peak euphoria of the actual altcoin market. There's no independent runs that happen with XRP that are not tied with the market. Everything is happening together. But we obviously see how strong the altcoin market has been. We see that even its MACD has flipped and curled, and that these elements have been required for XRP as well. So we have this going for the altcoin market along with Bitcoin concurrently. So that kind of sets the stage on like, are there elements present in the market for something like this to happen, for us to be at the actual ending here? And I think there's enough arguments to say it's not like it's out of line, right? Like you see the altcoin market on the monthly time frame all turning up. Bitcoin, if it's reaching its peak, then it's at a point where this is the kind of stuff that happens for XRP. Or even if by the far stretched fetch that Bitcoin breaks into an all-time high, you would still be at a time like this, right? And so it all brings us to the point of, are we doing our last little test in here after spending a year and a half in Wyckoff accumulation? And then finally, here this week, we get the test of the top of the range. We get daily closes sitting right on top of it. And now it's about turning up for the final excitement of the cryptocurrency market in 2024. So to understand the structure of like what we've had from 2021 to 2023, here's a very simple correction that XRP has done before. This one was much shorter. Still, it was a 7-month correction that included an A, B, C correction, followed by all phases of Wyckoff accumulation. We know that's what we've experienced over here in 2021 through 2023 for XRP, with an A, B, C correction and all phases of Wyckoff accumulation complete in here. As we could see in here at the resistance level, is really right above where the breakdown takes place here heading into capitulation. As we know, that's been our resistance here even when they won the lawsuit against the SEC and XRP was deemed not a security. The only things that are really different in here, you could argue either this or this. I mean, you draw a line like that and suddenly these things are the identical, same exact thing. I'll take everything off the screen. You can just see that into the capitulation phase, right? You have the selling climax followed by the secondary test. That's what we have over here. You have the selling climax followed by the secondary test. That marks the actual bottom. That marks the actual bottom. Then it's just a slow grind up and a slow grind up. Then lastly, coming in for this conclusion with this one test in here. And I remember being here during that time. I remember the unbelievable negativity in the community, the loss of faith that it's just never going to happen. I very clearly remember it and have told the story dozens of times here on the YouTube channel. Of course, we have something very similar occurring here right now, but you can see these things happening in here, right? This is just below where things really start to capitulate in here. Just below where things start to capitulate in here. And notice the testing region that happens here as we have this ABC. Zooming in on it to see where we come back and hit in this area. It's just like over here, right? ABC. We have the same thing, somewhat of like a head and shoulders happening down in here, with a head and shoulders happening down in here for this test, right? This, here we go again, right? But it's quite remarkable to see these things on where the price is actually headed to, what sentiment is like during this time period, and knowing that we've spent this much time in Wyckoff accumulation to finally exceed it, and really just having a back test happening in here. But when we look to this exact structure of what these things have done before, that was the moment before things got really carried away for XRP. And again, like I said, it's one thing to just look at structures, which clearly the structures are nearly identical to each other. It's all corrective format, ABC, Wyckoff accumulation, backtesting, ABC, Wyckoff accumulation, backtesting. But again, it's like important to look to those other elements that are going on in markets broadly of like what always happens in order for these types of moves to happen for XRP. And as always, stock market, Bitcoin, altcoin market, everything is bullish at the same time, right? And so we could look to these things and say, yeah, those elements are there for the actual price chart of XRP, which everybody was always wanting. I was like, hey, can we look at the XRP price chart and see if anything's going to happen? And it's like, look, guys, we got to find all those elements elsewhere, right? Once we go have all the elements elsewhere that can favor a condition for something like this to happen, then let's dive into it. All those conditions are out there. So we dive into the chart, and what do you know? You just so happen to have it. But we're not looking at Bitcoin on the chart every day to sit here and goo goo gaga over Bitcoin. It's that my conviction is that this is a mandatory requirement because that's what the data shows in every bull run for XRP. This is a mandatory requirement. And history has shown, like in all of those circumstances where those big runs came, this thing led the way. And that's a very hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. So I just tried to show you the data of all this stuff and when these things happen, what conditions need to be met. All the conditions are there. We're about to have a big change of narrative happen here in the cryptocurrency market very soon if this ETF does get approved. Is it going to become, whoops, that was a dud. Who cares about Bitcoin anymore? But guess what? We're all still really big bulls and we're willing to take a lot of risk because the stock market's breaking out into all-time highs. And let's go. Let's chase some yield. Forget Bitcoin. How's that old XRP thing doing? Oh, crud. And I would not be surprised if some random news shows up. Show me a chart. I'll tell you the news. This thing's primed for some news. And you better believe the news is going to do the exact same thing to this thing as it's doing for Bitcoin, where it makes it very, very difficult to sell it because some type of narrative gets attached that plants seeds of doubt. We spent years talking about a retrace for Bitcoin. The general herd screamed for 12K and for lower prices the entire time. Once we get here, suddenly they have to buy it because of an ETF. They have to buy it when it gets back up into the retracements because of an ETF. Show me a chart. I'll tell you the news. I'm going to bet you there's going to be some news that's going to be coming pretty soon. And the chart and the market conditions are primed for it. So we'll be keeping our eyes on this. The obvious thing we shouldn't be seeing is new lows set below the lows that were set back in August and October. Everything has been a constant grind up. That's what we should be continuing to see is just constant grinds up with higher lows coming into place. A lower low would obviously be different. It would be of concern. So that's the thing we'll be keeping our eyes out for to make sure that does not occur. Otherwise, it's all primed as it should be. And the stock market, Bitcoin, and the altcoin market are primed the same way as well. And the stock market, Bitcoin, and the altcoin market are primed for an event like that to take place as well, with similar conditions being met. So on that note, we'll conclude this thing, you guys. We're making it to the finish line. It's now or never. And one of those things that I love to share with you guys is the things that I see from a sentiment perspective. And there's no question, even XRP holders are at a point where they're mocking themselves at this point, which is 100% what it was like back in 2017. So I hope you enjoyed seeing this. I hope you enjoyed kind of the macro view. Again, this is just to reiterate, there's a very specific reason we're always looking at macro. We're always looking at Bitcoin. We're looking at those things, even though XRP is like the largest holding that I do have. And it has nothing to do with like thinking Bitcoin's going to like do any type of big, huge rewards. Even for a retrace, it was never about that. Even if it went into new all-time highs, it wouldn't be about that. I've been writing newsletters about developer data, circulating supply inflation, and percentage drawdowns, and we've gone through the 2020 bull run. Bitcoin is not the best performer, especially from the moment in time where we're at right now, even if Bitcoin went into a new all-time high. From this moment right here where we're at right now for Bitcoin, if you pretended it was 2020, Bitcoin was the worst performer out of the top 20. So I don't ever look to Bitcoin to be like some cheerleader of permissionless, decentralized, immutable ledgers. It's totally just understanding how this market has worked. Bitcoin has a tendency to lead the way. And when those conditions get met, then we can look for confluences in other places, stock market, altcoin market, Wyckoff accumulations after ABC corrections and completed accumulations, right? And all those things, they just all tie together for a really big picture and not the Fed's going to buy back my XRP or there's a switch that's going to be flipped. And there's secrets upon secrets upon secrets. It's really just putting all of that together. And it's a complicated picture and you have to keep your eyes on all of it to look for that lightning bolt to strike. And it does seem like a lot of things are lining up for the lightning bolt to strike. And I think our narrative is all going to get very changed up here once we get beyond this Bitcoin ETF stuff. And then it seems that we're primed for an XRP narrative. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful weekend. If you're looking for something to do throughout the weekend, of course, check out bcbacker.com. It's a course I recorded with over 40 videos and over 11 hours of content, deep diving into the historical behavior of the cryptocurrency market, tying all of this different stuff together, teaching you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. That's available over here on bcbacker.com. Like mentioned earlier, I do write a newsletter. It's over there at blockchainbacker.substack.com. The most recent newsletter is about looking forward into 2024, tying those big pictures together and what it looks like heading into 2024. And those most recent newsletters have really been focused on that developer activity, the circulating supply inflation along with those percentage drawdowns, and then like trying to combine all of those to create the most outperforming portfolio of 2020. And what would something like that look like right now as we head into 2024? All this stuff is available over here on Substack, which there is a link in the description of this video to blockchainbacker.substack.com. There's also a link down here to bcbacker.com. All those newsletters do have audio recordings with them as well if you'd like me to read the newsletter to you. Either way, lots of content for you available out there. I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic weekend, and I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hopefully I've earned your subscription today. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.